The forest had called them again. Chapter 5 left us with the signal stirring once more. Jack Barrett awoken by something older than memory and deeper than time itself. He had sensed it from the start, but now the phenomenon was no longer content with echoes. It wanted presence, and it had marked them. Jack wasn't the only one pulled back. Sergeant B had also begun to remember, pieces fractured by chemical veiling, stitched together by something he couldn't name. The memory blocks were failing, and the phenomenon knew it. During the second night, while the base slept under stars veiled in frost, Sergeant B had encountered the anomaly. Lights that weren't lights, sounds that bypassed the ears. A question that embedded itself in his spine: who are you? But neither man was given time to process what had happened. Their return to duty was rapid, their minds altered, their memories surgically reduced. Only Pike knew why. Dr. Christopher Pike had monitored every burst, every pulse, every irregularity. Jack's neurological data didn't just spike, it harmonized. And when the signal flared again, Pike knew it wasn't done. That's why he stayed close. Not as a handler, but as a witness. Now Chapter 6 begins. The timeline fractures again. A surveillance team is dispatched. The phenomenon begins to show signs of agency. Jack and Sergeant B stand at the edge of a second encounter, and this time, others are watching. The question is no longer what they'll see. The question is, who will return?
In the forest deep where silence breaks, time unwinds and memory wakes. The lights return like ghostly drums, calling back the ones it summons. Static hums beneath the skin. The air folds in and breathes again. Footsteps vanish in the frost. Two men found, but one is lost. The threshold breeze and we walk through, past the veil of what we knew. Signals pulse from underground, where the old lies are unbound. Truth was never far from reach, it lived beneath the shattered breach. Five shadows near the tree line pause, their ranks held fast by unseen laws. A beam descends without a sound. Jack dissolves, then isn't found. Sergeant B still stands in trance, as if he's heard the forest chant. Pike records, Voss turns pale. Hunter Green begins the tale. It's already begun. It never ended. The echo's not from outer space, it's what we've always defended. The threshold breathes and time stands still. The forest bends to unseen will. Witnesses now altered men, trying to unsee what they saw then. But the veil won't hold for long. The signals learned our song. past and be still dreams of lights that burn and silence screams. One truth remains behind all scenes: the threshold breathes, and it remembers.
The congressional hearing resumed promptly at 10 a.m. The air inside the vault was colder and more sterile than before. Jack Barrett sat forward once again. Beside him, Dr. Elias Voss adjusted his glasses. The chairman cleared his throat. "Dr. Voss, let's return to your prior testimony. You indicated that the Rendlesham encounter had measurable effects on both perception and time." Voss nodded. "Yes, that's correct. And you've previously stated that the effects align with phenomena outlined in the UK's Project Condin?" "They do, specifically the sections relating to charged plasmas affecting neurological function and temporal coherence in observers. Jack's brainwave patterns. They were altered, not randomly, but in patterned, harmonized response." One of the junior committee members interjected, "How much of our current technology traces back to what was learned that night?" Voss hesitated. "Much of it," he said. "Signal conditioning, predictive modeling, inertial dampening prototypes. Even some of the hardware involved in the Nimitz Tic Tac incident had fingerprints that began in East Anglia." Another member leaned forward. "Are you saying Rendlesham led to the Tic Tac?" "In part. The simulation parameters developed through Echo Protocol were later used in Navy training exercises. But something interacted with those parameters in real time. We didn't just simulate contact, we provoked it." RAF Woodbridge, East Gate Sector. Jack Barrett and Sergeant B stood at the edge of the tree line, silent as mist curled like vaporous fingers between the pines. Their boots crunched softly in the frost, but neither moved further. Jack broke the silence. "You feel that?" Sergeant B nodded slowly, like a tide under the skin. Above them, the sky pulsed, red, then violet, like it was breathing. A sphere hovered to the south, its form indistinct but steady. On the horizon, two more lights moved unnaturally, shifting direction without inertia. The time was 3:15 hours. Inside the security control room, Christopher Pike adjusted the dials on a Cold War-era trans-spectral monitor. He'd been reassigned, quietly, by the CIA to oversee temporal field studies, something he'd once believed was pure theory. Now, he watched the screens stutter. "We have a pulse," he said. A coded signal from underground had activated. Across the compound, a specially assigned NSA team worked to mask electronic signatures. Radio bands were scrambled, surveillance feeds rerouted. The goal: keep the Russians blind. But they weren't. Intelligence had confirmed a Soviet frog team had been dispatched days earlier. Their target: recover what they believed to be a downed satellite, a Zenit series spy payload that had never landed. What they didn't know was that it had been vaporized mid-descent by a classified radar harmonic field, one designed by the same minds behind Operation Echo Protocol. The cover story had already been staged. The wing commander was briefed in vague terms: routine exercise, possible foreign intrusion, a need to test readiness. If the lights returned, if movement was seen, he would send men. That was all Pike needed. The forest activation. The 5-man Air Force team dispatched by the wing commander consisted of Captain Devin Haynes, Technical Sergeant Luis Moreno, Senior Airman Trent Vickers, Airman First Class Neil Avery, Lieutenant Colonel Ross Denning, team lead. As they stepped into the tree line, they moved cautiously, night vision scopes sweeping the shadows. Vickers paused first. "Something's wrong with the air," he said. "It's heavy." Moreno checked his Geiger counter. "We've got minor fluctuations. Then it happened. A pulse. Barrett whispered, "You feel that?" Sergeant B nodded slowly, like a tide, under the skin. They stepped forward. The field shimmered. Inside the NSA forward ops van, analysts were already recording tachyon differentials. One voice crackled over a secure channel. "They've entered phase lock. The Russians are turning back." Outside the forest perimeter, a small Soviet recon team, disguised as NATO personnel, were taken into custody by British and U.S. intelligence assets. The mist shimmered and bent toward Jack and Sergeant B. A cone of light enveloped the two men as the time dilation bubble formed. Jack turned briefly, his eyes glowing faintly, and then, as if pulled by invisible strings, he vanished. No flash, no sound, just gone. Sergeant B stumbled backward, collapsing to one knee. "Jack!" he shouted. But there was no answer. Avery's voice trembled. "Did you see that? He just phased out." Captain Haynes immediately called for containment, but communications were distorted. Back at the command trailer, Pike stood frozen. "They saw it," he muttered. Dr. Elias Voss looked pale. "The field pulled him. We thought it was ambient. It's targeted." Hunter Green entered the room, face like stone. "Lock it down," he ordered. "They saw too much." "Those men are witnesses," Pike argued. "Then make them assets," Hunter Green said. "Or ghosts." Debrief room echo. 1 hour later. Jack was still missing. The 5-man team was contained along with Sergeant B. Lieutenant Colonel Ross Denning and the rest of the recon team sat in silence. In front of them, Dr. Voss deconstructed the telemetry data on a glowing screen. "This isn't random," he said. Barrett's interaction triggered a feedback loop. The structure responded to him. The Soviets were after a satellite. We were after what came after. Pike added, "They didn't just witness a phenomenon, they witnessed the next step in its evolution." Hunter Green crossed his arms. "From this point forward, I'm taking lead. Lock down the logs. Debrief these men separately. No record leaves this facility." He turned toward Voss and Pike. "We don't have time for caution anymore. The phenomenon made its move." Voss whispered, "And Jack Barrett's no longer in our timeline." Hunter Green's voice dropped. "Then we'd better find out where he is." They had been told to observe, to record, to stay just far enough back. But distance meant nothing in the Rendlesham anomaly. The 5-man Air Force surveillance team, Major Ethan Rourke, Captain Dylan Sharp, First Lieutenant Kai Soto, Technical Sergeant Brennan Vale, and Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Holden, had witnessed something no training could prepare them for. From the frostbitten tree line, they saw Sergeant B immobilized mid-sentence, his body caught between motion and stillness. They saw Jack Barrett move forward, then disappear, not like a man cloaked, but like a man erased. Not gone. Absorbed. Holden tried to radio command. Static. Sharp attempted visual lock. No response. And then came the pulse. Bright, fluid, folding light around absence. Madge Rourke dropped to his knees, unable to breathe. Vale whispered, "It's seeing us." When the light finally collapsed, only Sergeant B remained, barely coherent. Jack was gone. The trees no longer whispered. They echoed. Back at command, Dr. Voss and Pike scrambled for an explanation that could fit inside a classified briefing. They couldn't find one. CIA analyst Christopher Hunter Green made the call. From now on, he would lead. The timeline was collapsing, and the cover story was no longer optional. It was mandatory. Jack Barrett has crossed the veil. In Chapter 7, we enter the Echo interior, a dimensional overlay where Jack awakens not in space, but in time. His body is present, but his mind is untethered. He hears voices, some human, some not. He sees future versions of himself, and he isn't alone. Back on Earth, the Langley team prepares for containment. Sergeant B begins to change, and the first signal from deep beneath Capel Green transmits back. Its message is not a warning. It's a countdown.
Through the silence of time, I walked alone, but the stars knew my name in undertone. From Rendlesham woods to Saturn skies, I carry the echo, I live